You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Grown-ups, if there's a child in your life who is interested in, curious about, or fascinated by people and places from history, then my podcast, The Past and the Curious, might just be a hit in your home. From the invention of microscopes to world-traveling dogs to fashions of the 1890s, gold rush ghost towns, and audiences going wild for walking competitions, we've got a little bit of it all. Hosted by children's author and museum educator Mick Sullivan, that's me, the show is fun, funny, engaging, honest, and beloved by kids and parents alike. Find The Past and the Curious at all the usual podcast places.
This episode is brought to you by our Patreon members. Thank you so much.
Join our Patreon for extra episodes, interviews, extra content, and to help support the podcast and help us continue to do the work we do.
Go to patreon.com/ancienthistoryfangirl to learn more.
Father Zeus is not a god of mercy, and he is not a god to be crossed. I'm Jen McMenemy.
And I'm Jenny Williamson. And this is Ancient History Fangirl, the Ancient Olympics edition.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
It's all about the games.
Yes.
So I promised earlier in the season that I would do an episode in the style of Could You Survive Pompeii or A Day at the Gladiatorial Games for the Ancient Olympics. And with the 2024 Olympics beginning any day now, it seemed like the perfect time to share this unique view of what the ancient ceremonies would have looked like. And before we get started, I wanted to get a few caveats out of the way. This will be a second-person episode where we tell you a narrative. So this will weave in lots of facts and history, but it will be a story that tries to invoke the ancient world, the sights, sounds, and smells. We all know how smelly Olympia was now, thanks to my episode on the statue of Zeus.
Yes, it was gross, just FYI.
So oily and sweaty.
So oily and sweaty. I will literally never forget about the Zeus mound as long as I live.
Oh, wait, I'm going to remind you about it again. Anyway.
In case you managed to forget it.
So, as you can probably assume, there won't be much banter in this episode, at least not while we're telling you the narrative, and that's just to help the flow of the story. So, as the title suggests, this will just be about one day in the span of the ancient Olympics. And that meant I had to make some hard choices. I couldn't cram in all the things I wanted to because they all happened over different days. After studying what each day at the Olympics would have been like, based on the knowledge that we have, I went for the penultimate day because it had a few events that I just thought were so wild that I just had to share them with you. I had to make some choices about what the events might have looked like, and these events did change over time, so bear in mind this is what I have gone with, but it might have been different over the thousands of years of events. And I have definitely gone with the idea that women were forbidden to witness the Olympics, which is where the sources conflict a lot. But I had to make choices to make this narrative work. So this is what we've gone with. But before we go and visit the Olympics, I thought we'd give you some context for the days leading up to the penultimate one. So the Olympics I'm depicting took place over 5 days, which according to research is right for the ancient Olympics based on the time period, but I cannot stress this enough. The Olympics changed and evolved since the 700s BC, and so the days may vary.
I have a question, Jen. About when in time does this episode take place?
So I have had this take place after the construction of the statue of Zeus at Olympia. So I now can't remember what that date is. I think it's about maybe 300 years into the history of the ancient Olympics, but I could be wrong. So we're talking still in the BCs.
Like 300s BC approximately, question mark?
Think so. I can't remember now the exact date of the statue of Zeus at Olympia.
If you want to be reminded, go back in our catalog and listen to the statue of Zeus at Olympia. It is after that date of the construction of that statue.
Exactly. So a lot of stuff I'm pulling is from around that time period, but again, I can't stress this enough. Things changed. Some of the information we have is better documented than others. So, I wouldn't take this as a monolith of what all the ancient Olympics looked like. But in order to tell you a story, one that makes sense, I had to pick a thread, or we would get completely lost in the narrative. And Ariadne is not here with that ball of twine for us. So This is the choices I've gone with. I've chosen to summarize what the first 3 days that preceded the penultimate day would have looked like. I'm not really talking about the lead up or any of the stuff that we covered already in the statue of Zeus at Olympia, because it's already there for you and you can listen to it. Take it away, Ms. Williamson.
Okay, so day 1 of the Olympics are the opening ceremonies. We have only vague details here and not as much info as we'd like, but we wanted to share what we found. So this was the day that the culmination of months and months of hard work and training led up to. The Hellenodikai, a group of 10 Olympic judges, as well as the organizers of that year's games, would all swear sacred oaths to uphold the honor and sanctity of the games. Next, it was the athletes' turn to make their offerings and oaths. They went to the sacred Altus Grove, where they would pray to Zeus and make offerings. They might also make an offering to a different patron god, Hermes for swiftness, Heracles for strength, Apollo for skill in archery and other events, for instance. And after that, there was only one event. This event involved the boys, who would take part in running, wrestling, and boxing competitions. After these ended, the afternoon was downtime for everyone to wander the grounds of Olympia, make offerings to the statue of Zeus, and probably throw some impromptu or planned parties amongst old friends and rivals. Presumably, there were also some offerings to Demeter and maybe Hera, because we know that the priestess of Demeter was the only free woman allowed to watch the Olympic Games. All other free women were forbidden on penalty of being thrown from a cliff. Other women were present at the games, mainly enslaved women and sex workers, but freed women, wives, children, and daughters, etc., were not permitted to attend the actual games. So day 2 was all about the horses. The day started with all the horses and chariots being paraded to the Olympics Hippodrome arena. This arena was specially constructed for equestrian events, and this was the day when all the horse-related events took place. In the morning, it was chariot races. And ancient chariot races were incredibly dangerous, both for the chariot racer and the horse. In one origin story of the Olympics, the games owe their origin to a very dangerous chariot race where Pelops, son of Tantalus, competed against his future father-in-law, King Oenomaus, who had a very creepy attachment to his daughter, in a dangerous chariot race to win the hand of said daughter. And after the king died in the chariot race, Pelops also won the crown and kingdom of Oenomaus. In theory, the princess was happy with his marriage, but it is tough to say. Depending on the Olympics, the chariot races would involve either 2- or 4-wheeled chariots, and the distances ranged from 2.5 miles to 8 miles.
Once the chariot races were done, the horse races were held. These would have been one rider on a horse. And I really couldn't find the distances here, but it is thought that these races were shorter than the chariot races. In the afternoon, it was the pentathlon. And like the modern pentathlon, this consisted of 5 events, and that's pretty much where the similarity ends here. Our modern pentathlon includes fencing, swimming, show jumping, shooting, and cross-country running. The ancient pentathlon would have included running, wrestling, long jump, discus, and javelin.
Interestingly, we have found evidence that weights might have been given to long jumpers to either help them land or jump further. I don't know. Maybe this was some kind of a handicap. It's a little unclear.
It's a little unclear. Like, the thought is that they think they might have improved their game or like how they would land or help them in their landing or something. But everything was quite conflicting, so I'm not sure.
Anyway, the first person to win 3 of the 5 events was crowned the victor. That was it. That's literally it. After the winner was announced, everyone headed over to the shrine of Pelops to lay crowns at the shrine and praise the guy who won that first chariot race and sparked the reason for the games.
The reason for the season.
It's such a weird Christian catchphrase. Now I can't unsee it. You know that cannibalism is, in fact, the reason for the season. That's the religion I can get behind.
Listen, you know the reason for this season was a lot of sweaty, oiled-up, naked men who had lovers of both genders, all ages. All
Mound of Zeus.
The Mound of Zeus, the sacrificial mound.
Primordial mound. I'm not making it weird. The Mound of Zeus is making it weird.
Oh, the Mound of Zeus has always made it weird.
Anyway, so of course, Pelops, we were just talking about, won that chariot race through trickery, and trickery was forbidden at the Olympics. Don't worry, we'll get there. You know, Pelops would have been disqualified from his own games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, after the laying of crowns at the shrine, it was time for feasting. Hymns and stories that would be told about Pelops and songs and odes were composed to the day's winner, all recounted over lots of food and booze.
Day 3. So this day began with the sacrifices, and these sacrifices were all about pleasing good old fuck daddy Zeus. Remember our Statue of Zeus at Olympia episode where we talked about these sacrifices? How in this area of Olympia, Zeus was called protector from flies because there were so many flies due to all the animals, blood, the poo, sweat, oil. Yeah. Take it away, Jenny. Tell them all about that mound again.
Right, so this is where the Mound of Zeus enters the chat and makes it weird. Anyway, so this day, day 3, was the big day for sacrifices, and we wanted to just remind you of what that would have looked like. Here is that very evocative quote from Bettany Hughes' 7 Wonders of the Ancient World, where she describes in detail the altar to Zeus, which had been around since before the statue of Zeus at Olympia, and would remain long after that statue disappeared. Quote, dark, muddy, gelatinous, with bone and fat, and held together as a kind of ash cement when mixed with water from the Alpheus River, the original Zeus mound was a reminder of the prehistoric roots of Greek religion. Over 6,000 offerings, figurines of the warrior god Zeus, mortal warriors, chariots and charioteers, as well as images of bulls and horses have all been retrieved from the remains of this pile of bone and ash. Analysis of the remains shows that there was continuous combustion from the late 11th to the early 6th century BC, when the altar was shifted a little, but the sacrificial mound was never decommissioned. The accretions of old sacrifice, bone, fat, and skin here were so solid, a stairway could be carved into them. From around 700 BC, the offerings ardently donated were personal possessions including bronze tripods, which would have supported massive cauldrons.
Can we just stop for a minute about the stairs of like poo and blood and gelatinous bone?
Flesh from the 1100s BC that they carved a stairway into? I mean, ew. Ew.
So once again, that was the Zeus mound.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I will not stop. Once I was taught this by Bettany Hughes in her book, The 7 Wonders of the Ancient World, I can't unsee it, and now I have to pass this horror on to you. So this was the Zeus mound, the area where the ancients went to make all their sacrifices. And that's exactly what happened during the morning of the 3rd day of the Olympics. Sacrifices were made, offerings were presented by the Hellenodikai, as well as the ambassadors and rulers of all the Greek city-states. In addition to animal sacrifices, treasure and wealth were brought to the temple of Zeus. This was all about status and showing off. Kings and ambassadors would bring different items of value, symbols of their cities, gold, statues, treasure, as a way to show off and represent their wealth and power to the other city-states in Greece.
The afternoon was for races. The action returned to the stadium, the famous one measured out by Heracles himself, where contestants competed in both long races and sprints. And in the evening, there were public banquets, feasts, and presumably entertainment. Again, this whole festival was about showing off, so you know that everyone was enjoying the best food, wine, and entertainment, be it bards, poets, or sex workers. And that brings us to day 4. And we're going to join our protagonist as she tries to sneak a peek at the day's events. Just a reminder, women were forbidden on penalty of death from watching the Olympic Games. Our narrator, well, she just can't help herself. So here we go.
The sun has barely crested the mountains when the games begin for the day, and you can already feel your shoulders and face burning. Today promises to be the hottest day of the competition so far. And so far, you have been lucky. Your father and your brother are here. Your husband is here with his trainer, but you should not be here. Women are not allowed to witness this spectacle. At least, not a woman like you, from a good family, a free woman, a married woman. But you could not help yourself. You had to see. You could not give up the chance to watch your husband compete in the games. He has been training for over 9 months, the entirety of your marriage, and you told him when he wed you that you would go where he goes. You will not be left behind. You would follow him across the mountains, over the wild sea, to war if he's called to serve.
So it was only natural that you followed him here, to witness what you hope will be his greatest triumph. Women are not forbidden to be in Olympia, the village where the athletes live and train, but they are forbidden to watch the games. You straighten your Phrygian cap, ensuring your bright blonde curls are hidden beneath it. You pull down your tunic. It is formless and hides your slender shape. You've bound your breasts tightly so that your figure is as hidden as it can be. But such precautions may not be enough to keep your identity a secret. And if you are revealed to be a woman, one who dared to set foot in the stadium at Olympia, the punishment is death. But you would gladly risk death to see your husband in all his glory, to see him crowned a victor. So you transgressed. You prayed to Aphrodite, Demeter, and Persephone to aid in your mission, particularly Aphrodite, the goddess who would be bound by no form or gender or rules, the goddess of love and passion, the goddess of war and power. Before you left Crete, you prayed to her, begged for a sign, and she gave you one that you took to your husband and his trainer and used it to convince them that the goddess was demanding that you follow him to Olympia. You understood you couldn't enter the stadium, but you told them both that the goddess had plans for you that included this journey. And through all their arguments and fears, you would curse them with your presence, you would risk the wrath of the gods, you would bring failure upon your husband. They finally relented. It was Aphrodite, after all, who brought you and your husband together, and it is to Aphrodite that your husband owes his happiness. He told you once that he fell in love with you when he first laid eyes on you and would have done anything to win your heart.
But your husband had one condition. He made you swear that you would not leave your tent, not without him, and never during the day. He made you swear that you would not enter the stadium or the hippodrome to watch the events. You told him that your goddess would walk with you, protect you. And he told you that these games were dedicated to Zeus, that Zeus had forbidden women's entry to the games, and that the great god would punish you, reveal you to the crowd, and have you thrown from a cliff. Perhaps before that, he'd have your husband struck from the games, or grievously injured, or killed. Father Zeus is not a god of mercy, and he is not a god to be crossed, especially by a woman. And so you promised him you would stay away, but you cannot. The thought that he could be hurt or injured, and you would be waiting for him in his tent, and then he might never return to you, you could not sit and wait, not for one moment longer. You did your best to appease the gods. You sacrificed doves and laid roses before Aphrodite's altar, and you are wearing the charm your husband gave you, a simple silver and garnet charm in the shape of Aphrodite's dove. You have other, more valuable and beautiful necklaces and pendants, but none as precious as this. You roll the charm along its cord and take a deep breath.
Today is the 4th day of the Olympics. You've managed to sneak into the games 3 times, each time dressed as a boy. You've returned to your tent afterwards and lied to your husband, telling him you spent the day inside awaiting his return, composing silly rhymes and poems for his amusement. Although you never got past the first verse of any of your poems, he always found a way to sing another ode, one to the worship of both of your bodies. He called you his good luck charm. He thanked you for convincing him to allow you to come along, and he apologized for forcing you to remain alone, cooped up in this hot tent all day. He made up for it with his body night after night. Today is the penultimate day, and from what you've gleaned, the most exciting day of the entire event. Today, your husband will take part in some of the most grueling matches, and you fear for him as much as you cheer for his victory and safety. You slip into the stadium late, knowing that it is better to climb the mud and stone steps and find a seat high in the stands. You'll suffer the heat of the sun, but there's less chance of anyone from your city-state noticing you. Your father and brother, your husband's family, they all sit toward the bottom of the stadium, their places reserved for the families of a star athlete.
You keep your head low as you climb the stairs. There are thousands of people around you. Your sandal catches on a loose stone plank as you ascend, and you fall forward, scraping your hands. Gentle hands reach out to grab you by the elbow and help you up. You are frozen for a moment, terrified that the face you'll look into next will be your father or brother or your in-laws. But it's not. Just a kindly-looking young man with a mop of brown curls and a wide smile. Careful now. It would be a shame to come this far and miss the main event. You nod your thanks, not trusting your voice to be convincing enough, and you continue your climb. When you reach the top, you are amazed by the wonder laid out below you. The stadium is massive. It was said to have been measured by the great Heracles himself. You've been told it can seat up to 40,000 people. And today, looking down from this height, you believe it. Most of the seats are filled, but you are gloriously alone, huddled under the shade of an old olive tree. You sink deeper into your seat and hope that you will not have any nosy neighbors for the remainder of the day.
I'm a little confused as to why there's an olive tree that high up.
Oh, because it's carved into a mountain. So yeah, we'll stop for a moment here. So a lot of amphitheaters in Greece and Olympia, like if you ever go to like Delphi, you'll see pomegranate trees and things that overhang the tops of these stadiums because they're carved into the mountains. So that's what I'm picturing here. I'm not 100% sure that would be correct, but give me a little license.
It's a neat picture.
It is one of the coolest things. I will put in the show notes a picture of the pomegranate trees that hang over the old amphitheater at Delphi. The stadium would have had similar gradiated seats going up. So that's what I'm picturing here. You didn't go to the amphitheater at Epidaurus, but the amphitheater at Epidaurus is like this too. It's huge, and you go all the way up and up and up, and you get to the top, and there are trees that are literally growing over, shielding you. It's great. Because it's cut into a mountain. That's how they got those good acoustics. Anyway.
Fascinating. Pele, Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes, fire, and rebirth.
Maeve, Celtic warrior queen and nemesis of heroes.
Kiyohime, Japanese fire-breathing snake demon.
Pesta, Norwegian spirit of the Black Death. Our book, Women of Myth, is a fascinating look at women and femme characters in world mythology, including goddesses, heroines, and monsters. With captivating illustrations by Ringo Award-nominated artist Sarah Richard, it's the perfect gift for the mythology lover in your life, including yourself.
Find Women of Myth wherever books are sold. Okay, back to our story. Before the games begin, the punishments are announced. Yesterday there were 2 false starts, weights that were incorrect in the long jump, causing a chorus of shouts about cheating Thebans. And then there were the thieves, those who had stolen from the crowds and were caught. They will be subject to the worst punishments. 5 men are brought before the stadium. They wear simple tunics, no shoes, their feet probably scorched by the hot sand. They stand in one line from the least severe offenses to the most. The punishments for the false starts are floggings and shaming. The 2 men are stripped of their clothes down to the perizoma or loincloth. They stand before the audience they tried so hard to impress yesterday, their bodies covered in sweat and dirt, and they bow their heads in shame. Although yesterday you had seen the anxious men, their calves trembling with nerves before the start of the events, you don't believe that they had meant to cheat. But the rules are the rules. After they are flogged, they are left in the hot sun of the stadium as the next punishments are performed. The long jumper with his improper weights is also flogged. You aren't sure what the weights had to do with the event. Your husband is not a long jumper and has not talked much about it. You don't know how these weights help or hinder the athlete, but everyone seems in agreement that the long jumper has done something wrong. So he too is stripped of his clothes down to his perizoma and flogged. All 3 are ordered to pay a fine, and their names will be inscribed on one of the zanes, the rows and rows of bronze statues of Zeus that line the sacred site. A reminder that they are not to be trusted. The 2 men who had false starts are not banished from the competition, but the 3rd man, the long jumper, is. All 3 men stand in the stadium covered in blood and dirt, the sun beating down painfully on their wounded backs and shoulders. But the thieves, the 2 thieves, the kleptai, are sentenced to death. You listen as their sentences are announced. They will be staked and left just outside the grove of Altus, as a reminder to all that these games, this place, is sacred. Thievery, particularly of spectators who have come together in a spirit of unity and peace, is to be made the most extreme example of. You did not notice them stealing yesterday during the chariot races in the hippodrome, but yesterday was an ideal day to thieve. So many people were distracted by the racing that it would have been easy for those with light fingers to make away with a purse. You watch them as they are led out of the stadium, and you are glad they will not be killed here before the crowd. You have seen a staking once when you were a child, and it still lives in your head, the subject of many nightmares, the body crookedly impaled on a wooden stake, and depending on the mercy of the executioner, it could be a fast death or an agonizingly slow one. You will avoid the arena just outside the sacred grove of Altus. These punishments make you think of the penalties for you if you are caught here. Yours would be perhaps among the worst, thrown from a cliff high above. You hunker down deeper into your seat, looking around to see if anyone else has dared to venture up so high, and you find to your relief that the people around you are strangers. Many sit a few rows lower or along your row but under other trees, avoiding the hot sun. You might be sitting alone, but you are swallowed up by the crowd.
After the punishments, the first event of the day begins. You watch as the athletes take to the stadium, lined up in rows to begin the wrestling matches. They are toned, hairless, lean. They gleam with oils, and their muscles are larger than your thighs. And they are completely naked. Your husband, for all his beauty, and he is beautiful, is slimmer than most. You worry that he will find himself defeated before the first heat of matches ends. You strain your eyes to see him, and when you do, when you catch sight of his bright copper hair, you feel your heart stutter. He is on the far left of the stadium, and the man he is fighting is several heads shorter than him, but built like a bull. You clutch your charm and pray to the goddess to bring him victory and safely back to your arms.
The wrestling match is a blur. The men move so quickly, their arms and legs pistoning and pinning, their bodies twisted more intimately than lovers. And for a moment, you lose all hope in your husband. You watch as one of his knees almost dips and falls to the ground, and then you are not sure how he manages it, but he breaks free of the hold and pins his opponent. Everyone cheers for him. He faces many other men that morning, but he has the grace of Atalanta, decisively bending, breaking, and outmaneuvering his opponents. He stands tall after the final wrestling match. He has managed to defeat the final man who stood between him and victory, and emerged the victor of the wrestling competition. The crowd erupts in applause and showers him with praise.
Tonight, when you lie next to him on your bedroll and he recounts this story to you, you will gauge how truthful his tales are. Whether he lies or tells you the truth, you will stroke his ego. You will tell him that even Atalanta, who defeated the great Peleus, could not defeat him. Even Heracles, who wrestled his divine father to a draw, could not defeat your husband. Not today. Today belongs to him. He will tell you that you should not speak such blasphemy, not in Zeus's sacred city, and you will bite your tongue because he is right. But you also know that your goddess walks with you and she does not adhere to the will of the king of the gods. And tomorrow, after your husband is crowned the victor of the wrestling events, at the close of the games, you will kiss his brow where the olive leaves will be laid, and he will laugh and hold you close.
But that is later. It is midday, and now the combat has moved to boxing. Your husband will not compete in the boxing events, and so they have little interest to you. You watch the people in the stands instead. The men, many of them strangers, but some of them you know from your city, perch on their stone seats, cheering for the naked boxers. The boxers have only been allowed scraps of hardened leather for their hands, which will allow them to punch and injure each other with more deadly and vicious precision. There are some women who are allowed to see the games. There is the cold and stern priestess of Demeter, seated high on a dais overseeing the events, veiled and wearing long robes. She does not move, does not incline her head. She just stares down, witnessing all in silence. The other women you've come across are much more animated. Many wander the crowds with platters of rich food, large amphoras of wine or water, and they are dressed in scant scraps of cloth. Much of their flesh is on display. These women, the ones who were invited to watch the proceedings, are enslaved, and many of them will warm the beds of the men here come dark. It is why your husband has forbidden you to leave your tent after dark unless he accompanies you. He has seen too many women being used too freely. Even disguised as a boy, it is dangerous. Men here at Olympia are dangerous. Your husband calls them predators.
No one comes this high up to bring you food or water or wine, and you like it that way. You remove a water skin and a hunk of hard cheese, a peach, a small bit of bread. The stink of the campsite, stadium, and hippodrome might be less intense at this height, but you are still plagued by flies. There is nowhere you can go in this complex that doesn't reek of sweat and shit and blood and isn't crawling with flies.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
When everything's happening at once, teams need clarity. Help move work forward with Loom, the AI-first video platform from Atlassian. With Loom, you can quickly record your screen, camera, and voice to explain what matters. AI instantly adds a title, summary, and edits to your video, so clarity travels with the work. Fewer unnecessary meetings, more effective ones. It's a team changer. Try Loom today at Loom.com.
Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Wednesday, March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
After the bloody and brutal boxing, it's time for the pancration. You have been fearing this since the start of the games. This is the event your husband would not compromise on. What good was winning the boxing and wrestling separately? The real challenge was the pancration. So you have pleaded with him to sit out the boxing, and he agreed. But he would not be moved on the pancration, and you knew better than to push too much. The only rules that govern this event are that you cannot gouge each other's eyes or bite. Every other dirty trick and hold is permitted. Your hands shake, unable to grasp the peach, to eat anything as you watch your husband face opponent after opponent until he meets a towering mountain of a man in their final match. Your husband is slimmer, but he's also faster. You say another prayer to Aphrodite. Please let him win. Only one person has ever died competing in the Olympics, and that was over 100 years ago. It is unlikely your husband will die, but he could be seriously wounded.
Your husband and his opponent are fast and fierce, landing blows, holds, kicks, and daring escapes. You gasp as your husband holds the other man's head close to his face, almost close enough to kiss, as they grab each other's shoulders in a move that would have been forbidden in the wrestling match. They stay like this, like two stags with their horns locked, until your husband pushes forward. In 5 moves, he forces the other man to concede. And then it is over. Your husband has won again, and he stands for a moment listening to the cheering of the crowds, and then he topples over. The heat and exhaustion of the match have taken him. He falls to the sand and is surrounded by physicians. You cannot go to him. Not yet. Not with so many people watching. You rise to your feet, desperate to see where they are taking him. You know it is impossible, but for a moment you feel as if his eyes find you from the floor of the stadium, and you are frozen in fear and love. A stretcher is brought for him and a canvas to block the sun. He sits up and waves at the crowd, who cheer again. He is not injured, just exhausted from the heat. You let out a breath you had not known you'd been holding and gulp in air. It is just the heat. He will live.
The next and final event begins, the Hippolotodromus. The athletes are dressed in their helmets and carry shields. This event is ancient and meant to show off the might of each city-state's military prowess. And it is the final event of today. You watch as the athletes run 2 lengths around the stadium, clad in helmets, carrying shields, and trying not to be taken by the heat. The heat does, in fact, strike down a few of the men, who collapse to the ground as medics rush to bring water, watermelon rinds, and damp rags to cool them. But most men are used to the harsh conditions, and it is a surprise to everyone when a slim, young soldier from Crete wins the event, beating his nearest competition by almost a half a length.
You do not begin your descent until most of the crowd has dissipated. You do not want to risk catching anyone's eye. Your husband has warned you that it's not just beautiful women who have to fear the men here. Lovely young men also must protect themselves. So many predators lurk here. You manage to make your way out of the stadium and wind your way back to your tent. You strip off your Phrygian cap, letting your long braided hair down, and wait for your husband. He does not return until late in the evening. His color is still bright, as if the heat is still affecting him, but he does not care. He crosses the distance of your tent and takes you in his arms. "Husband," you say, keeping your voice low and husky, "how do you return to me this evening?"
"I return a victor," he says. "I had the strangest thought earlier today that I could see your face high up in the stands, even though we had agreed you would not enter the stadium, because that might bring bad luck to me."
You give him a blank look. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I suppose I did have some bad luck. The heat of Helios struck me down in my moment of triumph. I was carried out of the stadium. Shameful. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
You shake your head as you kiss his chest, his neck, his strong shoulders. No, husband.
Keep your secrets, wife. Just know that I will find a way to repay the favor next month when you compete in the Hurrayan Games.
No, don't you dare. It's forbidden.
As if you care that it is forbidden. I will beseech my wife's goddess and ask her to make me invisible for the day, so that I might watch my wife triumph and cheer her victory from the stadium.
Your face goes pale with the thought of him disguising himself to watch you compete, naked. But you only have a moment to yourself before he makes you forget your cares, before he invites you to share in his joy, his body, and his victory.
That's what day 4 at the Olympics might have looked like.
It got kind of sweaty there at the end. I don't know.
So sweaty. I mean, listen, my romance novelist hat was on at the end, and I was like, I'm sorry we have to fade to black, but join the Patreon if you want that sex scene.
Jen's making promises she may or may not keep, you guys.
I don't know if we have a sudden influx of patrons clamoring for it. I might write it and make Jenny read it.
Everybody's got a price.
Exactly. But yeah, as Jenny said, the ancient Olympics were filled of so many sweaty, naked men who competed in a litany of events. As I mentioned, I chose day 4 to share with you because it, in my opinion, is hands down the most exciting day. I'm sure the horse racing was very exciting, but I chose not to depict them because horse racing and the conditions for the horses because they were probably not as humane as we would have liked them to be. So, in my headcanon, day 4 is the day our narrator finally gets to celebrate with her husband. And in my mind, this is a happy story. They are in a happy marriage.
For once. I mean, that's pretty rare.
You know, when I was talking about it with Jenny, I was like, yeah, she's the kind of woman who's like, well, if they told you you're serving in a war, I'm going to go with you. I'll cut my hair and just go. She's very much her own person, and I love her. Now, I won't leave you hanging about what happened on the final day. Day 5 of the Olympics was closing ceremonies. People were given their wreaths and celebrated. Trainers, athletes, city-states, everyone was feasted and cheered for their accomplishments, either in the planning, funding, or participating in the Olympics. It was a morning spent with ritual and ceremony and an evening where everyone was able to relax, feast, and enjoy themselves. And for our narrator, it probably would have been one of the proudest days of her life so far, except next month when she kicks some ass in the Hurrayan Games. Obviously. Although, I have taken a little license with the Hurrayan Games. They weren't always done at the same time as the Olympics, but, you know, fiction. So, yeah, that's it for this week. And we have a little bit of news to tell you all. We are going to take a little summer vacation. We've been going strong since January. We thought we would be only a bi-weekly podcast, but most of the time you get a new episode from us 3 times a month.
Or maybe more than that, depending on the month. Like, it really has worked out that we've gone a lot more frequent than twice a month. So we need a break, and we are taking one in August. We may drop an interview in August or, you know, a few other things depending on how our interview schedule goes. But other than that, we will probably drop mostly re-releases that month just to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room because the way that our schedule works out, the next few months in the fall, we don't really have much room for a break until after the New Year's sometime. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so we're going to take a little bit of a summer vacation. We'll still be working really hard behind the scenes. Our book club will still be updated in August. There'll be a new author and a new book or series to celebrate. But we need a little time to enjoy that sun and just take a little break and recharge ourselves. And then we will be back in September. We will finish up the second half of the 7 Wonders. And then we will move on to something else that we'll tell you about a little bit later. Probably we will go into the next part of the season without having any real break. And that's why we need this month off now.
We will see you probably September 5th will be our next new episode. And if you would like to follow us on our social, we are at Ancient History Fangirl on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook. Mostly we're active on Instagram at the moment. And our Patreon is patreon.com/ancienthistoryfangirl. If you would like to sign up for that, we have new episodes dropping there. So you can get more content from us if you sign up for the Patreon.
And if we get enough patrons, I will write that smutty fade to black scene and make Jenny read it to you in her best romance novelist voice.
You know what to do, folks. Sign up for the Patreon. Anyway, patreon.com/ancienthistoryfangirl, and we will see you in September.